Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to, believe it or not, the final April edition of Topic Time in 2021. The spring is whipping right by. It's a little rainy out today, but I have an awesome show. I guess, to travel a couple hundred miles to get up here from the borough of Brooklyn, New York. Nothing unusual. We do have guests from all over the country and the world, but it's always awesome when it happens. But before I get to her, got to read these amazing underwriters, and then we will commence with the show per usual. So, we got Auto Country, king of the used car in Abington. The number one dealer rated his car out of 4,500 in Massachusetts. We got Smoke and Ashes Tobacco Stores in Whitman, South Weymouth, Hanson, Pembroke, and Abington. We got Abington Whitman News Corporate Office. There's the number. We got Lynch's Towing, Auto, Cycle, and Truck Center. One number for towing, one number for projects. We got Johnny Macaroni's Restaurants, two in East Bridgewater, one in Halifax. We got a new one, Manny's Auto Repair in Taunton. We got P&L Paintball in Bridgewater. We got John's Greenhouses and Florist Shop in Brockton. We got Middleboro Barbering Company in Middleboro. We got Premier Martial Arts in Raynham. We got Anthony Cycles in Bridgewater. They're a new one. We got A1's Tire and Auto Center in Brockton. We got Sweezy Fence Erectors in Whitman. We got Britain Tire Service in Brockton. We got Doggie Boutique, all-breed professional grooming for dogs and cats in Brockton, run by my great next-door neighbor, Debbie Siddell. We got the Gunrunner LLC in Middleboro, dedicated to your Second Amendment rights. We got Easton Fitness right here in the Village Shops in Northeastern. We got Chapin Sheds in Whitman. We got Grant's Rental in Bridgewater. We got Joe's Diner in Taunton. We got Speedy Oil Change in Abington. And we got MDI Auto Brokers and Repair in Whitman, home of the fully certified used car. And I want to thank you guys very much. And on that note, now I'll introduce this lovely young lady. This is Chanie Messenger. She is an occupational therapist. She just wrote her first children's book. She's got a huge following, evidently, all over the country. And the book she wrote, it looks very well illustrated. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk to her and find out what she's about. But first of all, Chanie, I want to thank you for coming up here from the borough of Brooklyn, New York, to be on my show. I know it's a bit of a haul, but we're going to make it worth your while. So again, thank you for coming up here.
Thank you. I'm incredibly humbled and honored to have opportunity to have conversation and to have opportunity with the audience as well. I'm incredibly grateful and humble, so thank you, and thank you for all that you do. I've seen a few of your shows, and you're just really an incredible human inside and out, and especially getting to know a little bit about your background and your story, so thank you.
Oh, wow. If that wasn't so well versed, I'd say it was rehearsed, but that's I think you just have that in you, that inbred ability to authenticate everything, and eloquently at that, I might add, so great job.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I know we had a conversation on the phone about me, and of course you did your research, as did I on you. You did your research on me, as did I on you. All right, well, so going forward here, well, we're going back first, because what I do with every guest is I try to find out what they were like as children and how they got to where they're at. And I get that you're kind of you're kind of an aspiring person. I get that you're kind of like that even as a child, looking, you haven't had a special intuition about life that most people don't have, or that maybe somebody that thinks a little more clearly about things that most people pay little or no attention to, as do I. Well, tell me if that's true or not. Would you say that was true of you growing up as a kid?
I would say growing up, I was actually incredibly shy, and I was this little girl that was really afraid of her own shadow. I was really afraid to speak or talk, especially to adults, and I kind of was very observant of others, very attentive to detail, but I wouldn't necessarily tell other people what I was seeing or what I was feeling.
Okay, well, there you go. So we do have that in common, except that you were shy about it, and I was outgoing about it and outspoken, and it often got me in trouble. And now, as we discussed on the phone, you deal with a lot of people with autism, autistic children, and I am autistic too. And the fact that I'm doing a show like this is pretty awesome, and I do repeat that a lot, but I can't overemphasize it enough. If that's not redundant enough. But now I want to find out from that, as a child, obviously at some point you progressed and you made yourself more interactive with the world. So tell me how did that go down? I expect there's an interesting story there.
So I always knew as a young kid that I wanted to work with children.
Okay.
I always knew that maybe I would open up some type of daycare, maybe I would open up some type of center. And when I graduated high school, when I just turned 17 years old, I started working with a little girl who had Down syndrome. And I would take her to and from different therapies, and I saw the way she interacted with the OT, with the physical therapist, the occupational therapist. It was just incredibly beautiful, and something that really drew me was to occupational therapy, just the creativity and the opportunity to ultimately play with children and the opportunity to work on skills and skills development.
Okay, all right. Well, now when you was this like a program from your high school, or was this something independent of your school?
It was independent of my school. In my immediate family, neither my mom nor my dad or neither my two older brothers had opportunity to actually go to college. So it was never really something that I ever considered as a young girl or even throughout high school until once I started getting a little bit more exposure to the world. It was something that I was interested in doing and pursuing. And once I started taking classes, that really kind of started my journey.
Okay. Well, so you did go to college eventually.
Yeah, eventually.
All right, where did you go?
I went to 3 colleges. So the first college that I went to was Kingsborough Community College.
Where?
Kingsborough Community College.
In New York?
In New York, yeah.
Okay.
So that was a foundational school of learning like the basic skills of reading and writing and math.
Okay.
And then once I completed my undergrad, I had opportunity to do a minor in psychology in Brooklyn College, followed by going into Long Island University and receiving my master's in occupational therapy.
Wow.
And currently now I'm in school for my doctorate, and I will be
Where are you in school? Where are you currently enrolled?
So I'm in Thomas Jefferson University currently, and I'm going to be graduating in under a month at this point.
Congratulations! Already having your master's. That's pretty amazing. All I have is my bachelor's and my associates, and that was a long time. That was 1989 that I got that. All right, and then so your doctorate is going to enable you to do things like it's going to. What exactly is it going to enable you to do aside from the fact that it's a higher certification than what you've already earned? Are there any perks aside from that in terms of what your work is?
Yeah, so in terms of being able to teach, in terms of being able to speak, and in terms of being able to do research, so I actually am going to be starting a study on a mindfulness education teaching training program for teachers. So it's giving me the opportunity to launch that program into schools, and it's going to be starting out with maybe 1 or 2 schools, and then ultimately my goal is to launch it throughout the state and throughout other countries as well.
Wow, that's incredible. All right, well, so are you a teacher now?
I teach at university during the fall semester.
You do? So you teach, you don't teach children, or do you? You teach adults?
I teach adults and I work with children.
You work with, okay.
I teach university students that are occupational therapy graduate students, and then I work as a therapist with children 0 to 21 years old.
Oh, wow, okay. Now, you've just written your first book, congratulations, and it's beautiful, very, very well illustrated. We're going to talk about that. So tell me about the book. It's called Breathe, Breathe, Breathe. And when did you write it? How long did it take you? And please give me a little synopsis. It's a children's book, obviously. I mean, it's something, and I assume that it's meant to make a child feel more happy in his and her environment, as opposed to dealing with the harsh realities while dealing with the harsh realities of life. Am I right?
So the intention of the book is really to help children be attuned to their own power of their breath.
Okay.
And effectively, it might help promote happiness, but it may or may not. The intention really of it is to help children be grounded. If I'm feeling upset, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling frustrated, I have the ability to remain grounded within myself and not really get so caught up in the external circumstances or in the external world.
Okay. All right. So basically, but it is sort of a book to comfort children, right?
The book is really, I would say, like to plant that seed and their ability to tap into oneself that ultimately can help with comfort, and it ultimately can help with calmness and relaxation.
So, I get it. It's more of a self-help book, but it enables the child to effectually proceed in the right direction internally for whatever, in whatever way. But at the end of the day, it's up to the child to decide whether he or she is going to follow the groundwork that you've laid forth in order to do that, correct?
Yeah, and this book is something that was inspired to me as a child. And as I mentioned, I was very shy as a child. And I also didn't mention, but I'll mention it now, I grew up with a lot of anxiety. I grew up, one would say, with a life book, especially for my home environment and within my school environment. A lot of focus on how to dress, how to act, how to be, and being the sensitive child that I was, I really ingrained and I took it to heart, where it actually contributed to me experiencing a lot of anxiety. And I had a lot of trickiness of really just grounding and sitting. I was very fidgety, and I thought that I'm my grades, I'm the way I dress, I'm the way that I act or the way that I am, and not realizing that who I am, who you are, who each and every one of us is innate. We're light, we're soul, and we're essence, and we're not our grades. We're not how we look. Each and every one of us within ourselves, we each have a heart, we each have our lungs, we each have cells within our bodies that have mitochondria, that have nuclei and DNA. Each and every one of us have the same thing, and I didn't realize that no matter how I'm look or what I'm acting or what I'm doing, it's not an indication of who I am. And I wish at a young age I would have known that who I am is light, and I have the ability to tap into myself through a meditation, through a mindfulness, as a way to help promote groundedness. So the intention is to help plant the seed in children to realize at a very young age, despite what's happening externally, despite what's happening in my environment, I have the ability to come home to myself. I have the ability to be grounded, not only in times of happiness and joy and excitement, also in times of sadness and fear and anxiety, because I am innate and I am essence.
Okay, I get it. Now, my family and I actually tried transcendental meditation back in 1972, long before you came along. You know what that is, right?
I'm familiar, yes.
Okay, well, it's kind of like that. We had to learn. That was sort of the goal of my parents still meditate, and they're in their 80s now, and they're still feeling, they're still pretty healthy. And they do it every day, so it obviously grounds them pretty well. They've been doing it, since almost 50 years. I tried it for a while, and then I gave it up. They gave the guy gave me the mantra, the Omi or Omar or whatever he was. Now, I don't know, and I see sort of a correlation, but what I see here is, you're basically trying to help children feel like they can empower themselves within themselves, even in a tough environment, which life can be at times. No, I totally understand that. All right, well, now, that having been said, with that book, when did it come out? How long ago?
It came out in, I think, about November of 2020.
Okay, so just about 6 months ago.
Yeah, just about, yes.
All right, now, have you gotten any reviews from maybe the New York Times or anybody? Because what I'm getting at here is I want to find out. It's obviously it's a therapeutic book, because you're therapeutic. That's your line of work, and you want to help children, feel empowered to be who they are. So what I'm wondering is, have you gotten any feedback in terms of that being effective in a lot of cases? And if not, that's fine too. I'm just trying to find out what the ledger looks like since you started this, or since the book came out.
So the book actually got endorsed by Dr. Shefali Tavari.
Okay.
She is a New York Times best-selling author. She's written quite a few books, and she endorsed the books, and we can see what she said. She wrote, Chanie has created a simple yet profound book that allows children to know the power of their breath and learn to connect with themselves. Children can get an early experience of composure and calm by following the easy instructions that are presented in a highly effective manner with words and pictures. Dr. Shefali Tavari is actually one of my role models and one of my inspirations for writing this book. Dr. Shefali, she talks a lot, and her hallmark is conscious parenting. And one of my big takeaways from the courses and the books that I've read written by her over the years is the importance of tapping into oneself, especially when working with children, rather than trying to fix or change, really looking inwards. And children have the ability to help teach the adults to become self-aware.
Okay.
That's a big hallmark and takeaway. And another individual who also helped me with the process of working on this book is Susie Lula, and she's a best-selling author of The Motherhood Evolution.
Okay.
And she wrote, and the endorsement that she wrote for this book, although Breathe, Breathe, Breathe is a children's book, and a brilliant one, that is, it speaks to every parent reading it as well. What a peaceful planet we would create if kids and their parents practiced the skills taught in this wonderful book. Chanie, and then the illustrator who created and helped me, I had a vision, and she helped take my vision and put it into real life, and she really did an incredible job with the illustration.
It looks great.
So this book helps children practice the skills taught in this wonderful book, and it's straight out of the park. And big takeaway, and Susie is one of my other role models, and a big takeaway from the courses and the classes that Susie has led over the years is the importance of self-care. It's not only taking care of, especially if you're female, and then on top of that, if you're a mother, not only taking care of your family, but making sure to take care of oneself first, even if it's just for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes each and every day. The importance of filling up one's cup first so that you can better be of service to others in your life as well.
Well, that's great. So you've obviously gotten some great endorsements from some pretty renowned people about in the industry.
I'm incredibly humbled and incredibly grateful, and also my friend Natalie and my friend Jeanette as well. They both really served as inspiration and guides for me to create and actually put this book into fruition as well.
Okay, so this is the kind of book I would think, because it's small, it's a short book that could be read to children as a bedtime story, but it can also be used as sort of a guide for the children too. It's like, to always refer to whenever they're feeling like they need to, go within themselves to empower themselves from whatever adversity that happens to be around them at that point, right?
Definitely.
Okay.
It's almost like I was mentioning before, my life book of growing up, of how to do and dress and act and be. It's almost like, to a certain degree, this can be like a life book for children in a way of learning some type of mindfulness and meditation practice.
Okay. So when the book came out, where did you go did you go all over the country? I know it was tough because of the virus, but did you do any promoting at all?
This is my first actual in-person interview since
good.
the past year and a half. I haven't physically promoted it anywhere as of yet.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, this is the perfect platform for you. I'm humbly say to use your terminology. All right. Well, so you obviously have a pretty busy schedule, down there with the kids. Have you traveled? Have you done any even before you wrote the book, though? Have you ever traveled around just all over New York? Did you go to different, aside from the schools that you went to, did you visit a lot of places where there were children, where you could practice your occupational therapy, or tell me now, or is it like, look at it now? Do you have an office down there where people come visit you and you take them in for appointments and talk to them and counsel them? Is that how that works? Aside from the university teaching that you do?
So primarily I'm working remotely at this point, and prior to COVID, I was working directly in schools, and I was working at a center. I am in the process.
What's a center?
A center.
Oh, a center, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. So a center is a place where there's all different sensory equipment and all different toys and items that it can work on helping the children.
All right. So basically, you've done a lot of traveling, and before the virus, and I guess when it's.
So prior to the virus, actually, I've had opportunity to volunteer in Israel and work in.
Oh, Israel?
Yeah.
Cool.
In a place called Ali Negev in Be'er Sheva, and I had opportunity to work with individuals 0 till about 100 years old, and really help promote occupational engagement to help with functionality, with positioning, with mindfulness, with meditation, skills along those lines. And prior to COVID, I also had opportunity to speak all over the world. I've had opportunity to physically speak in Italy and to physically speak in Rome as well as in Panama.
Okay, so Italy and Panama and Israel. Did you have an interpreter, or did you just speak English?
I spoke English when I did.
Did you have an interpreter for the people who didn't speak English, or did you?
No.
You didn't. All right.
I didn't.
That's pretty impressive, though. You're already traveling the world, and I assume when the virus is totally vanquished, you're going to be doing it more.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that I'll have the opportunity to do it more. But even despite COVID, I've had opportunity to speak over the world through Facebook Live,
yes.
which has been really incredible. I'm incredibly humbled to have had the opportunity to speak in Pakistan and Israel and local states, as well as in Saudi Arabia, as well as I think in Israel. So
you already mentioned Israel, but so that going on though, do you need? I mean, eventually you might end up in a country where there aren't many English-speaking people. Are you bilingual?
I am bilingual. I speak 4 languages.
You do? What are they?
I can speak Yiddish, English, Hebrew. I guess I can't speak Spanish, but I can understand.
I understand. Okay, I understand that you understand. Okay, I flunked Spanish 3 times. My grandmother spoke a lot of Yiddish, usually to my grandfather when I was misbehaving, and that was quite a bit. So as a kid, so I can relate to that too. Well, it's interesting because the reason I'm bringing that up is because as a kid I had a lot of developmental issues too, and somebody like you might have been very helpful to me because you could have a book like that might have helped me a lot. I'm sure I would have enjoyed having it read to me as, as a baby, not a baby, but as a young preteen growing up and having to deal with my own, issues of feeling persecuted by my peers, which was very common, not getting any respect at all. And even now, I kind of don't feel like I get the respect I really would like, but I'm working on it. But that's important because obviously there are going to be kids that have this issue, and it's tough. And it's tough being a kid, in this world, especially, with all the stuff that's going on. But when you teach kids the elementary school age and also at the universities too, right? Mm-hmm. So how many hours a week do you put in teaching everybody? You ballpark it?
I'm not really sure.
You're not really sure? Well, okay, but you've obviously done quite a bit, and if you've obviously well, all right. Let me ask you this: how many different schools have you taught at?
I've taught at one university. I've worked in quite a few schools. I've had opportunity to speak and teach in quite a few schools as well.
Okay, all right. If you don't, but that's good. Quite a few is good, and obviously you're going to get more. The more you promote the book, the more likely that's going to happen. Are you planning on writing more books eventually too?
Mm-hmm. This is a series of books. I plan on cultivating a mindfulness meditation series on the importance of healthy eating, the importance of movement, and I plan on creating, and I pretty much have created a book for young adults that are starting out on a spiritual journey.
Okay.
And if they're not exactly sure where to turn to, what to do, how to go about certain things, I ultimately have created a little bit of a guidebook of ideas and suggestions to help them really start to take that leap with their journey that they're taking.
Okay, you look fit. Speaking of activity, you look like you're very fit physically. Do you follow a physical workout regimen every day?
No.
You don't? Okay.
I typically am pretty active. I typically every day, or when I'm able to, I am out and about hiking a lot.
Yeah, me too. I love hiking. Cool. And there's plenty of nice walking trails down where you live too, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm,
cool. All right. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. Yeah, that's okay. So you're an outdoorsy type, and I noticed that you posted a video where you were standing on the ocean. Well, not the ocean, but you were standing on the sand by the ocean on one morning about 3 weeks ago. And I remember that's about when I reached out to you to try to get you on the show, but I couldn't figure out where you were. I thought it was Canada. And you said you were in New York, and I said, well, where's the Statue of Liberty? But all I noticed was the ocean waves. But you obviously like finding pretty remote outdoor spots. I know how that is. There's quite a few of them right here in Easton. You can go out. That park across the road is something I frequent regularly because I only live about 10 minutes away. So yeah, that's good. I mean, that's good for you too. It's therapeutic for you. And obviously, it's not, it sounds like you've reached a point in your life where you're starting to empower yourself better than you ever were compared to the way you were as a child when I assume that a lot of your anxiety is not as prevalent as it used to be. Is that true?
Yes, I have a consistent meditation practice for about 5 years. If you would have met me 5 years prior, I wouldn't have had this opportunity, had a conversation with you.
I understand.
I would be fidgeting and moving and
No, I know, I get it. You've calmed down a lot.
I've learned how to use my anxiety and use it as a superpower. I learned how to use sadness and fear and a lot of these quote unquote uncomfortable emotions and really kind of use it as empowerment. How can I learn? How can I grow when I'm experiencing anxiety as a GPS? What is that trigger? What is that concern? What is coming up for me? And maybe I can pause and breathe and take that step back, journal about it, and then notice it and feeling the feelings and doing it anyway. Even coming here today, having a lot of anxiety. This is my first time being on screen and having the opportunity to be on TV, and I have a choice to do it or not to do it, to have the fear and let it pull me under, or I have the opportunity to have the fear, breathe into it, allow it, acknowledge it, nip it in the butt, and use it as excitement and empowerment. And that's exactly what I chose to do, because we constantly have choices with our anxiety, with our sadness, with our life, or anything that happens. We have the ability to choose and to discern and to power within ourselves to transform and to change.
Well, and you made it clear that that's exactly what you're doing. And you're stepping outside your comfort zone. That's what most people call it. But in your case, you call it empowering because you're using the negatives. You're turning it in on itself to empower you, and it's obvious that you've done that. And I can understand that. Obviously, the anxiety traveling 4 hours or whatever it was for you to get up here and do a show like this, I can totally relate to that, because I still feel anxiety before every show, and whenever stuff goes wrong, sometimes stuff goes wrong. We had some things have gone. I've had some issues with the show lately. I'm not going to bring them up specifically, but they've been aggravating. And when that happens, my anxiety level shoots through the roof. But I've noticed that no matter what, I always seem to land on my feet when I come down. And in a way, it's like I'm almost getting the sense that it's. And I'm thinking that I'm trying to draw a parallel with you too. That we each sort of found our calling with what we do, after so many years of wondering what we could be doing. And and lots of frustration, not knowing and thinking of, will we ever find anything that really suits us? And evidently we both have. The difference is that you found yours a lot sooner than I found mine. It looks like, given given our age difference. That's pretty impressive, though. All right. Well, I'm just wondering. A couple other things. I'm just wondering if other things that you might have done. Have you ever done anything? Have you ever done any acting, modeling, played music, sang, danced? In addition to this, in addition to your regular activities, because I'd like to find out how multifaceted my guests are.
So within the community that I grew up in, it wasn't really something that it was allowed, especially as a female singing in public. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of the times within like the newspapers, sometimes the females' faces are actually omitted, which is something that happens sometimes. In terms of modeling, it was something that was a big, big no-no in my community. Like I said, like typically in a book or a magazine, in some of them, the faces would be covered, yes.
Wait a minute, are you talking about in Brooklyn? Mm-hmm. Well, what was it about why was this not allowed in the neighborhood?
Because it's not bitsnua. It's not something that is modest.
Oh, okay. What was so restrictive about the neighborhood? I'm just wondering. It sounds. I mean, I've never been to Brooklyn, so I don't know.
So the area that I grew up in, just the home that I grew up in, and the environment was a little bit extreme.
Okay, I get you. All right. So it was more of your home than it was the neighborhood.
To a certain degree.
I get you. Okay.
So in terms of modeling, so it was something that was a no-no. When I was 17 years old, I did modeling, and when I was 19 years old and 21, and I did modeling as like a side, as something for fun. A lot of people don't necessarily know that I did that.
Well, I'll know now, and I think it's great.
Yes, thank you. And it was just a really incredible experience to be able to do that and have the opportunity to do something that I wanted to do, and just out of like fun and playfulness.
That's exactly right. And so even back then you were proving that you could take your restrictions and just shove them under the rug, and you chose to, and you did, and you made the most of it. And that's great. See, so you proved you've done this over and over again, now you're just realizing it, which is, well, I mean, I'm just realizing it. But I'm glad I asked, because this is pretty important stuff. All right, well, guess what? We're down to the final 5 minutes of the show. We made it go by fast. Now, that having been said, I want to know if we covered everything sufficiently that you wanted to cover today.
I would say so. I think something that I would add.
Go ahead.
That I specialize in working with children that have sensory trickinesses. I work with children that have developmentally challenges, and individuals with all abilities and skill levels.
Okay.
And not only when I'm working with the children, a lot of the time I'm working with the parent and the teacher and the families as well, because I believe that the dynamic of the home really serves and has a direct impact on the children to help with self-efficacy, self-esteem, and self-worth. So I really try to hone in on that, in addition to looking at sleep and healthy eating, as well as their activity, abilities, and skill levels. Okay,
great. All right, well, now what I want you to do is look at the camera, give shouts out to people. You get your father right here, you say hi to him. Just condense them. You got almost 5,000 followers, so you got a pretty big audience out there. So just say hi to a few people, and then we'll wrap the show up, just like we started it with my music.
Okay, I'm incredibly humbled and honored to have this opportunity. Thank you, Dad, and thank you, everyone, for watching. And a message that I would like to share with the world is the oneness and the interconnection, and I think I brought that up earlier. How you and I, we're no different, and from the people that's watching, we're really no different. Whether you have black hair, blonde hair, dark skin, lighter skin, we're all interconnected, and we all are one. And it's the realization that when we're in disconnection, then we're cultivating a lot of negativity and a lot of pain and suffering. And when we're able to unite and cultivate this oneness with you and I and with everyone out there, then we have the ability to cultivate love and peace and kindness into the world. And one of the intentions of this book is to help that and to promote unity and love and kindness, and people to really tap into themselves. And I full-heartedly believe that through meditation, through mindfulness, through a self-help journey, through working with therapists or professional, this is one way that we have, each and every one of us has the ability to tap into oneself and to create and cultivate unity and oneness into the world. And that will help where we live to be a more safe and more calm and collective universe and world to live in.
Well, great job, Chanie Messenger. Thanks for coming up here and being
Thank
with me
you.
today. Real quick, if you know anybody that's any other authors or any people in your area that are having an interesting story to tell, have them text them my digits. Tell them if you had a good time with me that I'd love to have them on as guests too. I get quite a few guests now from word of mouth in addition to Facebook, and that that will do. I ask every guest that I've had on the show to do that just before we wrap it up. So on that having been said, are you ready to wrap the show up like we began it with the music?
Yeah, all set, ready to go.
All right, folks. Thanks for watching Topic Time. More great episodes to follow. See you in May. Take care. Have a good one.